Mazda, one of our favorite sponsors here on UCSS. We love Mazda. It's for those who believe it's not just about playing the game. It's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible, reminding us to go that extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep the game moving forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning, and just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda. Mazda, move and be moved. Zach's with us, and Zach's going to play No Fence Riders with us after we do a little Q&A with Zach. We're thrilled to have the man, the myth, the legend, the one-line king, Zac Jackson.
You done started a trend. Now, if you try to come on the show, if you come on and you're not playing No Fence Riders, we can't have you on no more. I need you on the record with some of this stuff. I like this, Zach.
Yeah, long time no see there, Zach.
I need this every week. It's the same conversation.
What is your thoughts on AB skipping his press conference? Did you have a problem with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it. I mean, make a list of 25 issues I got with the team. It probably doesn't crack it, but it's a bad look. There's no other way around it, right? He's always done it this way.
Yeah.
He's the GM of the team. He didn't talk after the Isaiah Bond signing. He didn't talk after the Flacco trade. He didn't talk after they traded a corner at 11 o'clock at night, 3 days before a game. So now, he's going to talk at the bye week like he always does. Okay, he's not.
Yeah, no.
Right? Like, if everything's a secret and you're winning games, then everything's a secret.
Right.
And it's our job to dig out some of those secrets.
Yeah.
But when everything's a secret and you're 2-6 for the second straight year, then, what's the secret? What's the secret sauce here, guys? You're spending more money than any team in the league.
Yeah, and losing more than any other team in the league.
Well, I'm going to follow it up with that. I was watching on 92.3 The Fan, and Mary Kay was on with Baskin and Phelps, and Dan Minigan was in. And they asked, we're confused, what's going on here? And she said that they made an organizational decision to make Kevin the spokesperson. Now, I don't remember that being in the protocol for the Browns. I remember AB doing it like this. So is this a thing that they came up with? Does Kevin know, he's going to answer the questions, or?
They made an organizational decision to draft Dylan Gabriel with a top 100 pick. That wasn't right either.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, that's not new news from Zach.
Oh, he coming in with that smoke ready. Let's go.
It's ridiculous. Is it frustrating when you hear Kenny Atkinson be so honest? Or
I did hear that,
yeah.
And I do watch obviously from afar with the Cavs. Yeah. Is it frustrating? Sure. I mean, sometimes we all look at each other and say, "Well, imagine if we were covering a different team that did things this way."
Yeah.
So, but we cover this team, and this is what it is.
And it's so annoying because, as you said, the Browns act as if they're smarter than everybody else, and yet they're the worst franchise. Maybe in all of sports, certainly in the conversation for worst franchise.
It's been embarrassing for decades, Bull. It has, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, look at this. How is this 6 years going to be remembered? It's going to be remembered as the Deshaun Watson era, the Deshaun Watson mistake, right?
Yeah.
People will remember 2020 was a weird year in life and in football.
Yeah.
They did it. This group came in and took the pieces and won for a while. And you're going to remember Flacco's magical month.
Yeah.
But mostly you're going to remember the Deshaun Watson failure and the fallout. And some of that fallout is wasting the career of Myles Garrett, who's this team's next Hall of Famer. Joel's got a Hall of Fame case. He probably doesn't make it. He's a guard that played on 2 winning teams.
Yeah.
Right, in 52 years.
Yeah.
Right? So it's going to be remembered for the Deshaun Watson failure, and it's just time for everybody to move on because 6 years is a long time, and new voices, new blood are needed. And you want to debate, what's Andrew Berry's resume? Well, it's Deshaun Watson and Dylan Gabriel. Okay, so it's time.
Man,
pretty
boy,
simple.
Boy, go ahead, Tyrus.
Are you saying that both of them, or just one or the other?
I mean, it's a layered discussion, but I do believe that it's probably time to move on from both of them. Yeah.
Well, do you think Kevin can win the locker room back?
Yeah, I don't know that Kevin's lost the locker room. I think obviously that the losing hurts, and I think that there are coaches out there certainly doing a better job than Kevin has done. Right.
Me and Tyrus was breaking down the film the other day, and I asked him.
Oh, it was nasty work.
It was nasty work.
Nasty work.
Ooh, nasty. I asked him to start the film. Before we did that, I said, "Hey, there's reports thinking about Tommy Rees play calling." He said, Tommy Rees has input on the offense right now. I don't think he's going to come in and be a genius." Your thoughts on whether they would switch to Tommy Rees, or would it even matter? in the context of what they're doing.
I'm not sure what it would matter. I mean, I think you need to make a change, and I think that's what pushed them to rush the quarterback change that they made 4 weeks ago, right? But I don't know that it would matter, right? Like when you look at Kevin's resume, he's played the cards. They changed defensive coordinators. They changed special teams coaches. They fired the offensive coordinator. Then they fired the next offensive coordinator. They changed Kevin's offense. Now they're supposedly back to Kevin's offense, and it's flopped, right? So like they've played these cards. The one constant has been Kevin and the wide receivers coach.
That's it. Which is amazing. Because wide receiving, besides offensive line, is the worst position.
Right.
Group.
Speaking of nasty work.
Yeah. Do you have the frustrating thing is? I think we're all in agreement. It's time to move on from everybody in this organization. But I also have no faith that Jimmy Haslam's going to hire the right guy.
Sure. But I think that's a layer down the discussion. Now, look, none of this is simple. It's not as simple as bench the quarterback. It's not as simple as fire the coach.
Right.
And I do think we're past the point where so many people come into every game and just want their pound of flesh. They've decided it's Stefanski, it's Gabriel, it's Judy, it's whatever. And they're not wrong.
Right, yeah.
Right? So when they're not wrong, you look at it. If you really believe it inside that they need a new voice, that it's time to move on, and probably some not-so-nice guys after these two nice guys, then you can easily make the case and you'll find someone. But you never sit and say, look at the list of coaches on The Athletic or on Bleacher Report, whatever, and say that's a bad one. Like, the guy has to work out, right?
Right.
You as owners and whoever else is in on that decision have to believe in that guy and what he's going to bring, and he has to come make it work. And he has to make mistakes and learn from them, right? And so I'm not necessarily saying it's a negative that Kevin's played all his cards, because when you're the head coach, that's what you do. This idea worked, this didn't. This player worked, this didn't. You move along, you evolve.
Yeah.
But they've evolved into an offense that can't do anything.
Nothing.
And so the numbers don't lie for the second year in a row. The record and the stats, and just visually, it's as bad as they've ever been. And when they play next Sunday, you feel like the first two drives are going to be all right. And after that, they're not going to be able
They can't
to
move the
do
ball.
anything.
Yeah. It is crazy.
With all that being said, do you think they ultimately will be fired? Because they act as if that's not the case.
They do act as if that's not the case. I think you have to act as if that's not the case. I do. Over the last few games, I have come to believe that that's the fact, because I just think the optics matter, right?
Yeah.
And it's the whole thing. It's what's Jackson Dart going to be doing? What's the Travis Hunter trade going to be doing? What's going to be available? What does the stadium look like in December? What does the offense look like It's the whole thing, right? And so it might look different in 3 weeks from now. I'm not trying to say that it's a knee-jerk game-to-game thing, but I just think as I've felt it from where I sit and in the way I feel it, I just think they're going to be left with no choice, because I don't think you can come back and say any faith in what these guys are doing. In a few good draft picks do not change that.
Nope.
Zach, you broke the internet it's about a few months ago, and one of the things that you said was
Broke the internet.
He said, Dylan's not an NFL quarterback, and over that large period of the sample size, Dylan Gabriel went from the kid at Oregon, who we said maybe 6th, 7th round pick, got nice backup to
4th, 5th.
To the 3rd round and a supercomputer, and we need to figure out if he's a franchise guy. Like, were you sitting there this entire time just looking like, guys, we saw that?
Yeah, we knew. Right. Like, I knew of Dylan Gabriel's career, right? And when I go to the Senior Bowl every year, I'm studied up on as many players as I can be, but specifically the quarterbacks. Yeah. Because over the course of the 3 or 4 days that I'm there, you never know when you're going to get to interview these guys, so you got to be ready. So I walked in, Garrett, the first day in the stadium. I looked to my left, I looked to my right. The first guy coming out of the tunnel was Dylan Gabriel. I immediately never wrote a word or said a word about him for the next 4 months, because he was so small that there, to me, was no way in anybody's plan. And this is a 1.5-year plan, right? Mm-hmm. Because Deshaun was already failing. He played a great game in Baltimore in November of 23, but he was hurt. It was over. Yeah. It was over. So they had a 1.5 years to come up with this plan. And they got Kenny Pickett for a 5th-round pick and Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round.
That was their plan. And it's a giant F, another giant F.
I need to look at
for
that
the organization.
A very small, just a little follow-up to that. I sat here, me and Jason Lloyd, we was talking back and forth, and I said, well, Jason, look, man, people are like, oh, Shador's not ready to play. I said, well, just leave that to the side. Let's talk about what's going on with why would you draft, or why would you use a pick on Kenny Pickett? Give him all those reps. And then when he pulls his hamstring, they trade him. You've invested the time, energy, and effort, and then why would you trade him? And you only got a 5th-round pick for him, and then you get Flacco, and then you trade him. Like, I don't understand if they're telling us in the building that Shador's not ready. Well, fine. Well, why did you make these steps ahead of that to put you in a position where you got to answer to that?
The whole thing, right? Why trade Josh Dobbs 2 years ago, which forces DTR to play in the first month?
Yeah.
Like the whole quarterback thing has been broken, right? And Garrett, there's no great exact answer for the way you ask that. Like, why did that go that way? I don't know. The theory was we're going to take shots. We've got Kenny Pickett. He's under contract. He doesn't cost us any money. We know what Joe Flacco is. We're going to give him one shot to recapture the magic. He doesn't cost us any money by quarter. Like what Joe and Kenny were making together is half of what the Colts are paying Daniel Jones. Now that was a hit,
right?
But what I'm saying is quarterbacks cost big money. And the Browns painted themselves into this Watson corner to where they had to do it. But you're right. To make that trade and then pull the plug that quickly, and to not look at Dylan Gabriel and say, okay, we know what he's going to be, which is not much. If Dylan was a 5th or 6th round pick and played in November or December, you could say, hey, man, there's a lot to like about this kid. He's a backup. Gave him a shot. But to draft him where you draft him and put him in 4 games into the season and have this be the result, you can't be any surprised. Zero surprise. Because this is what it always was going to be. Because he does not have the physical ability to succeed in the NFL. And he never was.
It's crazy to use a top 100 pick.
And even their quotes about him will say that he's a good college quarterback.
Right.
And that's exactly what he was a good college quarterback.
I don't know. It seems so obvious. It's like these are smart guys. How do they continuously get it wrong? And that maybe
In this position.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
you ever think that Kevin believes that he doesn't need the quote unquote superstar quarterback because he's done better, like Jacoby Brissett,
Keenum,
Phillip Walker, like he's done it with so many quarterbacks.
He hasn't done what?
But it's like they're not.
Jacoby
they're not
was-
like the top 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Kirk
but Jacoby
Cousins was
Brissett
never
is
like
the
a
only
top
one
5
you could
quarterback.
argue has played his best football here.
What was their
The
record
only
with Jacoby
one.
Brissett?
It wasn't any good.
Right.
Right. And Jacoby's played decently this year and plays
If you take like the PFF quarterback numbers and lay them on a chart for over 6 years of Kevin with the Browns, Jacoby's are the best.
Is it really?
Yeah, Jacoby's are the best.
Even better than.
But they didn't win.
Yeah, they
and
didn't
it's
win,
remembered fondly because Njoku caught that one ball in traffic
I remember
in
that.
the last game.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right?
I was literally in a bar with Anthony Lima when that happened.
Yeah, those are things you don't want to talk about.
Big shocker.
Since then, me and Anthony Lima are both married. He has a bunch of kids, and he's at home and don't go out no more. That's how long ago that was, Tyvus.
And I'm sure he left without saying goodbye.
What year was
Ghost.
this? No,
His
Jacoby
move.
Brissett was here, what, 20?
22.
Yeah.
The day after they traded for Deshaun, they traded away Case Keenum and they signed Jacoby Brissett because he saved about $3 million, and they knew Jacoby would be the starter for however many games Deshaun was suspended for.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about one thing positive. Myles Garrett, like, you've watched a lot of football, Zach. The 5 sacks in one game, that's
He's
crazy.
amazing. He's amazing, yeah. And he gets in that groove and he's going to go get them.
Yeah.
So it's nuts. At the beginning of last year, or in January, I said, hey, this team has 2 off-season quests. Trade Myles Garrett and find a quarterback.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm right. And Garrett, the day I said that, I was not trying to break the internet. I was giving my observation that I could not believe that they drafted this guy.
Yeah.
And like what I saw at the Senior Bowl is what I saw at the Senior Bowl. And on day 1 of rookie minicamp, I looked and I said, Shador looks like an NFL quarterback and Dylan Gabriel does not. And I had no idea it was going to be as controversial as it was.
Right, because
it shouldn't have been.
the marching orders were that he has to be great. Tyvus kept saying when we was watching films, he said, I'm looking for the throw. Let me see the throw. I have not seen it.
What's Dylan's most memorable play? Throwing the
The
ball.
safety.
I mean, the two,
That's why
Safety.
throwing the
I don't mean to be mean.
that's going to be the most memorable one.
Yeah.
Like, what's his best?
The 2 touchdowns in London are pretty passes.
Yeah,
Last week, the touchdown last week's a great read,
Yeah.
Right? The
right?
one doing Njoku?
Right, like the linebacker gets caught looking and he throws it right over his head. You know, but then they have 70 yards on the first drive and 113 and a half.
What do you think the Browns would have gotten for Myles Garrett had they traded him last offseason?
Probably not enough, which is part of the problem.
Okay.
Michael went for 2 1s and a proven player.
Right.
I mean, Myles is 5 years older than Michael.
Right. He's better, but he's 5 years
So, like, but what? Say you do that deal with Green Bay. So now you have the 16th pick, and then
Right.
next year you have the 30th pick, and then you get one player. You get either a young pass rusher from them, or
Yeah.
you get one of their young
Right.
receivers. Are you in a better spot?
No.
In quantity, you are, but in quality and really,
I mean, if you hit on them picks, yes.
yes, if you hit on those picks,
But when you-
they're hold up. Green Bay and Buffalo were the two realistic
it's
ones.
Myles, though.
Yeah, it's Myles. And Green Bay and Buffalo are the two realistic teams. So you're looking and saying that's going to be picked 28 to 32 for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
But by the time you're going to get good now with this team, is Myles Garrett still going to be good?
Sure. Well, they don't. He turns 30 in December.
Yeah.
Their whole, and this is probably right. Like he's not a human being. Right.
Right, yeah.
2 more years minimum of Myles in his prime, and that's kind of what they're paying for. You're
Yeah.
always paying on the back end of these NFL contracts.
Man.
When you trade a superstar, you very rarely ever get the value you need because you have to use that value in order to
Correct.
to get something back. Quincy Carey, shout out to him. He had an analogy. He said, if you go sell your car today, Typus, $6,000, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have $6,000 of free money. You have to invest that $6,000 on a brand new car and put some other money with it to get a dependable one.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're going to use most of those assets to replace what you had, and it's not going to be. I mean, do you think you could draft back-to-back Hall of Famers at defensive end?
No.
Oh, well, there you
No,
go.
but every time they play, people are like, well, a receiver, well, anybody but a defensive tackle at first. And these are the things that go on when you're losing, when it's not working. Their vision is Mason Graham is going to be at very least a solid player for a long time, and he's going to give us a strength on the defensive line. He's going to draw doubles or discourage people from doubling him. And this is and I get that the vision. Oof. I do think this group is separated from other Browns groups in that they have an idea of what they want it to look like, but they've had so many poor evaluations and poor moves that this is what it looks like. Because at some point, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? And when you're 2-6 for the second straight year, right, and you can't trade Myles now because of the dead cap, and Watson's cap number is $81 million for next year. Right, and if you cut him, it probably only goes up from there, depending on how you do those numbers.
Right.
Then it's like now you're another year down the road. This roster a year from now probably is worse than this one.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Whoa, dang, bro.
Yeah.
Out of 53 guys next year, half of them or more than half will be first and second year players.
The only way it's not worse is if
Because they have 14 rookies on this team.
Right, and you'll probably have 25 players that are first and second year next year.
Right.
And the only way the team's better is if you get a quarterback, if you hit it on quarterback.
So
That's
right
the
now,
only chance.
all 5 offensive linemen, David Njoku, Jerome Ford, who's easily replaceable.
Right.
Those guys are free agents, right?
Yeah.
Your top backup offensive lineman, Tevin Jenkins, free agent.
Yeah.
Shelby Harris, Alex Wright, 3-year veteran linebackers, Rayshon Jenkins, who's playing well, right? Martin Emerson, who's hurt. They don't have the punter doesn't have a contract.
Yeah.
Like
They better not get rid of Board.
So
It's really crazy. I mean,
all 5 offensive linemen.
Is Ronnie Hickman still under contract?
Ronnie Hickman is not under contract.
What?
He's restricted, but he wasn't drafted, so he's
I'm about
basically
to
unrestricted.
go
No, he's
see.
unrestricted because he wasn't drafted. You don't get anything in return.
Who is the third best non-rookie under contract next year? Is it Jerry Jeudy?
Garrett Ward and it would be
Delpit.
JOK is under contract,
Okay, but
but
that's going
he's
to
not.
play.
Yeah,
Delpit.
Third best guy who won't be a second year player
non-rookie
next
right
year.
now. Maybe it's Delpit. Because if you eliminate Fannin and Judkins, there's nobody on the offense
Right.
that you're worried about keeping.
Judy's been horrible.
Why can't we see Malachi Corley?
Right, because he outplays the guys when he gets
right.
He gets here for one play, big explosive play, jogs to the sideline, we'll never see him again.
Here's.
It's a high pick.
What is this about?
I'm gonna ask the same question because I want to put it on top of this. I'm gonna go on silent boycott. If I hear one more person say this, I'm gonna jump in the middle of traffic. Not really,
Jeez.
but when I ask people, hey, what do you think about what timetable does Shedeur Sanders have to play? And they make up in their mind, oh, we can't put him possible. They'll ruin him. He'll be worse than ever. It'll be 35 sacks and touchdown, and he'll throw the ball away. It'll be unwatchable. What I don't understand in what world you can imagine in your mind that it's okay to say, okay, well, he's the 32nd best quarterback. He's not really an NFL quarterback, but we don't even want to see this other guy play at all.
It's fair, but they've given him 0 reps. He's been here 6 months now, and they've given him 0 snaps with the number 1 offense. Through spring, through summer, through he's 1 snap away from going in the game. 1 turned ankle, 1 concussion check, 1 anything, and they won't give him a snap in practice.
That's
Garrett.
crazy.
So how do you expect him to succeed?
Like,
right?
but that's crazy. How is that?
But what if he did go in there and ball out? Would that make it more of an offense to
it would
Kevin?
just make
He'd be done, huh?
Yeah.
I think so.
Look,
too.
we've painted this situation where right now, this isn't exactly right, but this is a fair way to view it. It's Kevin and Dylan versus everyone.
Yeah.
Right? Because the more he doubles down on
Yeah.
Dylan, right? And
Right.
it's not his fault. It's the GM's fault.
Yeah.
It's the receiver's fault. It's the but like that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's how people are going to view it until much further notice.